So we would like to premise the whole argument in a different way and start that way and then end up with what's in it for me as an agent and what's in it for me as a principal. But before we go there, I'd like to give you a framework around which to think about the problem from the start again. We've pre-framed it already, but I'd like to give you another one, and hopefully that will help you, an educated, passionate, intelligent person who's probably a principal and not the target audience of the communication that we're going to need to have to roll this out. You're not our client, right? You're not the person who needs help. So let me give you a framework around getting in the mind of the person that needs to be changed. And it's called the prisoner's dilemma. Now, in 1950, Flood and Drescher came up with this concept. It's game theory, and it's been applied to macro economics and climate change and advertising and these sorts of things. And it's called the prisoner's dilemma. And the way it works in almost cartoon variety is you have two people who are accused of a similar crime, potentially the same crime. And they are put into two different cells where they can't hear each other, and the prosecutor goes to both of them and gives them these three alternatives. You can say the other person did it, and if they say they did it, then you walk free. You can say you did it, and if they say they did it, you both get 1 year. But if they say you did it and you say they did it, you both get 5 years. You see how it works? If you work together, it's good for you. You both walk free. And human nature will always be to gamble, to roll that dice and go, I can get off scot-free if I gamble the other person actually did the crime and is honest enough to say they did. So apply the prisoner's dilemma now to, say, litter. People drop litter. They then complain about the garbage in the streets. Yet it was them who added, but it was only a drop in the ocean, right? Or if you apply it to, say, climate change, what's the benefit of a country to reduce their carbon output and have economic disadvantage on the global scene when their benefit is only when everybody reduces their carbon output? You see how it works? So now let's apply that to the institute and so the industry of real estate agents. If you take that philosophy again and you apply it, and you can probably call this Project Brussels sprouts, because we know it's good for us, but no one wants to eat them. So that's kind of where we are now. This is good for us long term. It will make you fitter. It will give you a better profession, a career. But what happens is we end up choosing the next sugar hit, which is my comm, my next deal, the VPA advertising, or going down the path of race to the bottom in comm. And that's where we are today. So if you use that prisoner's dilemma idea, what we need to do is we need to frame why this is good long term for the people who don't even know they need to change. And that's where we're starting now when we get asked the question, what's in it for me? So I'd like to talk to you about that and making sure that we are in the heads of the people who need to change as well, and how we can be successful in this rollout. Pete.
So thanks, Brett. I mean, when we were asked to talk about this and talk about it from an agent's perspective, it's hard not to take it personally. I thought about a whole different range of ways to open the presentation as we discussed, and we talked about exactly what Brett's opened up with. But it is a very personal thing, and the thing that kind of strikes me, and I'm sure that this is the same for everybody sitting here in this room, is that as late as last night, I can't even remember what I was watching, probably something to just keep my mind off things and just relax. But I saw an ad on TV, and I don't actually even want to say the name of the firm, but you can all get the picture. It had a cake and an esky. You pick it. And the only reason I don't want to say it is because I just don't want to give life to it. I don't want to give it breath. I don't want to give it oxygen. And I'm not saying this from any position of saying that I find that this is threatening to our industry. But what it does do is it creates a perception. And the thing is that if you look at that public message, it's all about the fact that in that message it is that somebody saved money using agents. They called them agents. But if you don't use these guys, effectively, if you've used the alternative, which is us, you've been ripped off. and that's the message that's been sent. That is a repetitive message. There was, I think, in that 1 hour of TV, I think it was, there was probably 3 ads. And to be honest, it really guts me, and I'm sure it guts you too. And it makes me pretty cranky, to be honest. And I guess you look at it and you say, what does it have to do with professional standards? Well, what it really says is that there is no discernible difference in the services that we offer. And really, it's due to the fact that the public don't really understand the services nor really view us as providing those professional services, because there are no genuine standards. And I think what's been discussed already with previous speakers is that we all agree that we've got to have that. And as referred to at the very beginning of this discussion with the REI and OFT, or Fair Trading as it's called, with Minister Dominello, he said, what is your gold standard? And the thing is that we've talked about the fact that even John said, look, we are ready for this. We've got no choice. We have to be ready for this. We've got no choice but to be ready. It's got to be what we do moving forward. And this is a defining moment. And someone used the word renaissance. I thought that was just so appropriate, because it is. This is something that, if you go back to the very, very beginning of the rationale of why we all decided to join this industry, we've all got different ideas, different reasons, different rationales, and it was different way back then. But the reality is it's going to be different moving forward. Otherwise, we won't have an industry to participate in. Things like those ads, they gut me, because you've got these people talking about what they offer in terms of services, and it is all genuinely fee related. But when you break it down, you understand exactly what they do. They're doing something that's completely different to what we do from a fee perspective. They take a fee up front. They take it on signing. And they don't take the same responsibility, the accountability, the financial risk, and the emotional investment that we put into this process if we act in a professional manner. It sickens me to see these, to be honest. But what it makes me do personally is it makes me far more determined and focused to make sure that we lift the overall standards of our people, that we create benchmarks not only as an industry, but as Shannon said, within our businesses. Because if we don't do that from the top down, all of this will be a waste of time. And it's going to start with all of us. The thing that I find remarkable about the group that we have here today is how many great industry leaders we have, but also for those that have travelled so far to be here. And again, this just to me, for somebody who's been in this business since I was 18 years old, it's my 27th year, I'm incredibly proud to be a part of this moment, because I believe that not only is this essential for us as individuals, but essential for us as an industry to have relevance in the future. The thing that I want personally, because like all of us, I'm sure that we've all been at a barbecue one day across our careers where somebody's talked about real estate agents. And of course, when they talk about us as agents, they tar us all with the same brush, but they give us that same exception. They say, no, not you. We're talking about the industry. But they are talking about us. And the rationale really is this, is that for me, I'm proud to be a real estate agent. I genuinely am. I always have been. I always will be. But professional standards, in my view, will allow the public to have greater clarity to determine the difference between the wheat and the chaff. And that's what I hope that we can achieve. And one thing I do agree absolutely with all the previous speakers is we cannot do this individually. This is a moment where it's not about competition. It's about unity. It's about driving forward together. And if we can't do this, then we have no faith in our own futures in this industry. Thank you.
So let's break it into those two parts then. We've got the principal and we've got the agency. We've got the agent. And if we have a look at what it means for the principal, a lot of us are that. And one of your biggest jobs is recruitment and retention. And we've talked about if you can invest in their education, the first 3 years, you get great retention. And I've got a couple of agents that have been with me 8 and 10 years. And certainly they're the ones I lean on the most because I rely on them. I know that they know me, they know our culture, they are educated, and they can do what I ask them to do. And it's the younger ones who are probably looking for that sugar hit or easily seduced, I think was the word, which is a great word, to do the wrong thing. And we've got to protect them against that seduction as well. But for the principal, for that recruitment and retention, does professionalism give you a better spot to be for recruitment and retention? And I believe that it does. It does it in two ways. Firstly, when you're recruiting, you can be more confident of them wearing your brand, and that certainly helps you sleep at night. Secondly, it'll help you retain them because through increased barriers to entry and therefore increased barriers to exit, because people have invested in this career and so they don't want to leave it just because there's a small market downturn. Because of that, your retention is higher and you're supported as the principal by the industry for extra training to help them be a better you. And that's also good as a principal. Longevity and training expectations across the industry are different from brand to brand to brand. And if you have a look and say, what's the training expectation a sales agent has or a principal has, it differs from state to state and brand to brand. But if we elevate everybody and bring that bottom level of education up, obviously the principals will benefit as well. And my last point there about being a principal is we are a principal partly because we have passion for the industry, partly because it's a career that we can be proud of, partly because, and this is from me as a person, one of my biggest joys in my role is helping create a career path for new people. I love sitting down with people and working their 5-year plan when they haven't even worked it out yet and help them get there. And every 6 months we sit down and we say, how's that career plan going? As a principal, you need to have a passion, not about your bottom line. It's got to be about your people. And this professional step in the right direction will help you have that passion about your people, help you create better people in your team. Certainly for me, it will help me create a better team. And as a result, my brand, my business will benefit. And I think from a principal, it's a difficult pill to accept, but your team will ultimately be better as a result. And that's why I think the principals should get on board.
100%. I think the thing that I think is really inspiring for new people and just to talk about new people, I think the danger about saying, we're talking about people in sanitary areas, but getting into real estate. Well, maybe they are going to be the future. Maybe they are going to be able to provide a greater level of professional standards. We need to embrace new people coming in our industry, and of course we need to also have something for them to actually pin themselves to and have something to actually say, this is the level that they are at. Now that standard, obviously, when we set this, and it's going to be set by the industry group, is that it's also going to be challenged. It's going to be challenged regularly, and there's going to be consequences. I think Steve talked about consequences, and it's really important that we have those consequences, and those consequences are clear. To have a discernible difference, let's face it, we're salespeople, we're property managers, we're auctioneers. We're going to want to have some visual recognition of who we are and what we do, and that's going to be important. It's probably not half as important, though, as understanding the difference between the education for an agent and the training of an agent. And I think that sometimes we just mess those two things together and say, well, we've done training because we've taught someone how to do something. And there might be some educational value in that, but there's got to be greater educational requirements for people to stay within an industry and to earn their place. And I think that agents will really want to be a part of that because it gives them something to tie themselves to, which doesn't exist today. We've got a range of standards that are ethical, but educational standards and professional standards that we're talking about here today will go a long, long way to increasing educational aspirational paths for the future generation of real estate agents. The other thing, I guess, with all of that is that, agents will, whether you're a property manager or a salesperson, they'll demand this of you. So as Brett's talked about what principals need to provide, the reality is that the leadership group, there will be expectations demanded of them from their people. Agents, and whether you're a property manager or a salesperson, you'll want to be with someone who's going to provide you with that and is going to share the same ethical and professional standpoint. And that is what will separate us. And I think Betty said, how do we get rid of the bad ones? Well, I agree. It's something we'd love to do. And I agree with Tim's response in that, and it's going to take time for that to happen. But it's going to be strong leadership that's going to help provide that in each and every one of our businesses. Really, the final thing, I guess, from my point of view, Tim said something which really resonates with me, and I think will resonate with every single agent, is about live the principles, because actions speak louder than words. This will mean nothing if we have a standard and we can educate ourselves to that point, but it's not lived in the marketplace. And it's got to be echoed with everything that we do, from what Shannon discussed in the way that we deal with buyers, which, to be frank, if I'm honest with myself and everyone is honest here in the room, we should be ashamed of the way that we have dealt with buyers in the past. As a leader, I can also say that I'm ashamed that I haven't placed enough emphasis on that, because a lot of the things that Shannon talked about is really the reason why we're in the position that we are. And it's endemic across the industry. But today is a step forward to move away from the old and start embracing the new. And that's something that I know we're really excited about on the board, but we can't do it alone. The REI's got nothing without its members, and the momentum that exists by everybody participating, particularly with something as important as this. And I can assure you, as you would know like I do, we want pride. Braden said pride and respect. We all want that. We want to be at that barbecue, not being the exception. We want agents to be the rule, to be tarred with the positive brush, not a negative one. And I think this is a really strong step for all of us to move into that space.
Lastly, just on the slide, so if you go around our circle there, we've got the pride, which Pete was just talking about, the purple one, the professional fee, and certainly the monetary benefit to us. The bottom green is the meaningful, respected career, which is for the principal or the person. The apricot one there, customer service and customer experience, and making sure the buyers and the vendors are looking out. But it's interesting to see, let's game plan out what is going to happen in that yellow, which is the competitive nature of the landscape as we go down this path. Now, we've written there less competition and more competition, and by that we mean probability of large numbers. What will happen is there'll be less competitors in the number of them, but we will compete at a higher level of service. So there'll be more competition necessary to win the client, but by less people doing it. And who's the benefit of that? The client, the industry, the people whom we serve. And I think that we've all sat there saying we've got to do more for our clients and earn our fee and earn our oxygen, the reason we exist. And certainly this is what's in it for us, that more competition and less competition in the same environment.